All right, people, we have a new project. I know I said I was going to be working on the ultralight, and I am. That's actually it right there. But I'm having some difficulty with just figuring out what the right materials are for stuff. So that's on back burner while we do some intermittent projects that will take a lot less time. And then those will come every now and then as I figure things out. I've also been working quite a bit, so time has been a bit thin. But what we're doing today is we are building a headache rack for a truck. A headache rack is a metal apparatus. It goes behind the cab of the truck, sort of right behind the rear glass, and it runs up in the shape of the back of the cab. And it basically makes sure that anything, let's say you roll the truck for some reason, or a tree falls on, something happens, something falls on it's going to do a lot to protect your head and maybe the roof of the truck a little bit too. But mainly you, just from getting smashed in. So it takes the blunt force of anything falling down. Plus, it's also a great spot to mount lights. And it keeps anything, let's say you're loading a sled in the back of your truck. Sled being a snowmobile for y'all not snowmobile people. So you're loading a sled in your truck and you get a little too much juice and you slam her into what would be the glass. You'd be down a rear window unless you got a headache rack, and then that protects that from happening. So that's what we're building today. Just went and got steel, and let's get underway. Alright, so we have all of the pieces of the main upright, the frame that is. That'll go at the top of the truck, right there. Then we've got these two little blades. They slide in on the sides like that. And then one of these is a greater angle, looks like that one. That goes right there. This has all the same angle. This side of the way. This one right there. And that is the main frame. This piece will go on the bottom, but it's at a different angle, so I'm going to weld these together, hopefully in a square fashion. And then we will add them to there after we've done some middle stuff. I guess I haven't really showed y'all the design yet. See if it will even unlock with my dirty pin. Yes, it will. So that's what we're making right there. I guess it's going to look like that. And so you can see what I've got so far. Time to weld. So I'll just show you guys this because I think this is important. I'm not perfect, and I'm not trying to be perfect. There are some gaps. I'm using a very cheap cutting wheel, right? So in order for it to be 70 inches wide like it's supposed to, there are a few gaps in the top. That is okay. I am perfectly fine with that. I'll just make them the same and fill them with the weld, and that'll be perfect. So what you'll see here is I've leveled it up, and it's supposed to be at a 10-degree angle, so I set it at a 10-degree angle, just leaning on stuff. Not terribly professional, but it will work. for what I'm doing. And I'm going to fill this gap. That's also not terribly professional, but will also work. And that's all I'm going for is working here. New mistake. So the next step, after I've welded it all up, is to cut some pieces out of this inch square stock to fill. We're going to do couple of verticals and several horizontals to give it some interior. And this is going to take a minute of cutting, so we're just going to pretend that I'm magic in case that I am. And we're going to skip from now until it is done. So, and there we are. 6 more bars. They will go in this way, and we will commence the final weld of everything. Well, I'm a fool and forgot to press that big red button, but there is the slats welded in and the little feetsies that the box is going to rest on. And then next will come finish welding on the feet, then going over it hardcore with that flap disc, some over there, and then primer, and then paint. There we are. So I'm doing 2 little light hangers. I'm thinking we're gonna have just 2 little LED lights on the back of this. I took some pipe and cut a couple 2-inch-ish sections out. These are gonna go in the ends to cap that off, and this section will hang I'm not quite sure where, we'll figure that out in a sec, but you'll be able to mount little lights in them. Maybe I'll cut off at an angle and then put them on there. I wanted to do them like that, but there's not enough space to put a light there, so I think what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll cut these off at an angle and weld them on. But we're gonna do the caps right now. Alright, all done welding. Now I gotta do some cleanup, because I'm not a professional. Hit this hard with a flap disc starting now. I'm calling that good on the grinding. There's a lot of work in here. It's kind of hard to tell, but shiny lights and all. Next step is prime and clean. I'll have to find some acetone or something. Clean, prime, paint. So, yep. That's that. And there she is, all done. It's a little rainy today, but it's looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. It holds in place with the same... My box is locked. Well, it holds in place with the same hardware that holds the box on. There are these little clamps down underneath. Yeah, there we go on the light. That clamp to the side of the truck, and then the box screws down through them. So I just set it up so the box screws go through the box and then through the foot of the headache rack and then into the clamps. And that is the finished product. I think that looks sweet. We're doing some lights on that later, but I'm not putting that in the video just because I gotta order those in. And that's a whole nother thing. I could probably do a video at some point about wiring in vehicles. I've gotten pretty good at it. I've done a lot on this truck, so. But yeah. DIY headache rack complete.